All right, 006, and we feeling good, y'all. It's Married to the Games. Thank you guys for listening. Kids and wives and 9 to 5s. We keeping it moving, baby. Gabe Patillo here with Timothy Hall as always. And where's Tim Router? Tim Router ain't here with us today. He's sleeping on the job, man. Where's he at?
Yeah, he's visiting Pooh in Walt Disney World.
Oh, yes, right. He's doing like a cruise and everything.
Yeah, man.
Well, now we're not going to know when anything's coming out or how much what sold the week before.
That's okay. There's so much crap. It's just play something. Buy something.
Exactly. Tim Router, miss you, man. Hope you come back soon. In his absence, we're going to have a special guest on. Timothy, I kind of told you about him. I think it's going to be really exciting. He's a really good guy. Can't wait to talk to my man Bradley C. So we'll have him on in a little bit, do a little interview with him. But how was your weekend?
Pretty good, man. Last week, it was either last week or the episode before, you reminded me about NBA Jam existing, so I went back and played it over the weekend. That game. I didn't
remember it existed.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm talking about the new one, of course.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I've got a Sega Genesis,
edition.
But I'm okay. I'll play the new one.
Yeah, exactly.
That game, I am so glad they have the classic mode, because right as soon as I could buy the classic players, I was like, screw these new guys. I don't even know who they are anyway. So I'm rolling Pippen and Rodman, and that is it.
There you go. That's you know all. How to do it. You know how
exactly,
to do
it. Man. I mean, for people our age, like that game has such a. What am I trying to say? Like there's a point in my life where I was really into basketball,
of course,
and really into NBA Jam, and it's like so. I have to be playing as those players. I can't be playing as these.
Well, you know what it was.
New guys.
You know what it was.
What?
And it's subconscious, but because where are you from originally?
Dayton, Ohio.
Okay, Dayton, Ohio. I'm from California originally, moved to Nashville when I was like 10. It was the Jordan era.
That is true.
Kids loved Michael Jordan. And so regardless of what state you were from, what college your parents went to, you love Jordan, and because you love Jordan, you love Rodman and Pippen, and you love the Bulls. You know what I'm saying?
You just love the Bulls, yeah.
You just love the Bulls, period. It didn't. Jordan's not even on the game, but you still played as the Bulls.
I'm so glad you
mean?
share that. Yeah, exactly. I'm so glad you share that with me, because I try to explain that to people quite a bit younger than me, and I'm like, you had to live that era as a kid to understand why NBA Jam was so important. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, even though it didn't have Jordan. Didn't have to.
And he's like one of those rare guys that like he stayed out of games pretty much, like those big corporate games like that. Of course, I think he had the Jordan versus Bird games or whatever.
Oh yeah.
But like, the fun ones like NBA Jam, like he just never was in. And but it didn't matter, because he's Michael Jordan, and he played for the Bulls, and they won championships with him, couldn't do it without him, and then he came back from baseball, and they won some more. And he was just that guy. And so for our age, for the people that are floating around 30-something, and people older, people that really lived through the Jordan era and know all about it, there was just a thing you had for the Bulls. You either loved them or you hated them. Nobody just kind of liked the Bulls. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They're
That's
either
the truth, man.
Murdering your team, or you're rooting for them and you're watching Jordan do all kind of crazy stuff that these kids now playing basketball wish they could half accomplish.
I know, man. That's the thing, is the Magic were my team, but, Jordan, I got so much Jordan stuff still to this day, just from collecting. It's like, and everybody had the shoes, and everybody had the jackets. You remember those giant starter jackets?
Oh, of course. Do I remember? Yeah, like freaking Stay Puft Marshmallow Man jackets.
Exactly, man. Everybody had them. Like, I even talked to my wife, and she had them.
Yeah.
It was just like, it was
everywhere.
that era.
Exactly. Yeah. That's awesome. So is that what you did this weekend? Did you play freaking NBA Jam?
Yeah, that's pretty much all I had time for. I was catching up with some work stuff, so... that's all I had time for.
I was actually home this weekend, and it was a beautiful thing to actually be home on a weekend. And so I'll probably be gone for the next, and this is not exaggerating, but I'll probably be home maybe 3 weekends out of the next, let's see, 5-6 months. And so just to get this weekend, to be able to be with my family on a Saturday and a Sunday. My wife ran a 5K on Sunday. It was called the Color Run. They do them all over the country. And so just to be able to be there and support her in that and stuff like that and be a dad and
That's awesome, man.
was awesome. So I want to say I spent all my time with family and sound like a really good husband and father. But I also beat Mass Effect 2 this weekend. So
Nice.
that was a good time for me too, because now I can move on to the third one. I'm kind of got it up in the air. I'm like, okay, do I want to overload myself with Mass Effect 3, or should I move on to BioShock 1 and then like do a back and forth thing? But part of me feels like I need to catch up and actually get to, at least the last 5 years of gaming.
Yeah, let Mass Effect 2 simmer a little bit. I mean, I beat it probably, I don't know, 4 months ago. So, and I'm about to go into 3. So, and everything's still pretty clear. So
yeah, exactly. Sheesh Louise. All right. So did you play anything else? Was it NBA Jam was all you did since we talked last?
that was pretty much it.
I love it. I'm so
I mean,
glad. I'm
that's
so
the
glad
thing.
you went back and played it.
That's the thing. You get into. See, I started playing it thinking like I got time to play 2 games, I guess. Played 2, and I was like, I'm gonna just keep playing this for a little while. So, and I ended up playing for probably 3 hours or something. I don't know.
Oh man,
It's a fun game.
Exactly. I mean, that's how you know a game's good, when you're in the heat of Borderlands 2 and they're releasing all this downloadable content, and you could be playing that and beating that. You still went back and played some NBA Jam, and those are simple games. And I think that's gonna be what's so cool about talking to Brad here in a second, is that his collection era just comes from an era of simple games, man. There wasn't a bunch of buttons and all this. So you want to get in with Bradley C?
Yeah, man, let's do it.
Like I was saying, Tim Router is not here today. He's playing hooky. And so we got a special guest. We got Bradley C in the building. Bradley, how you doing there, brother?
Patillo Hall, good to be here.
Yeah, man, it's great to have you.
Great to have you.
Oh, well, thanks. It's like an honor. I'm telling you. I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
Yeah, it's been a real long time coming, right?
A couple weeks at least, anyway.
Right, exactly. So, Bradley C, I'll give the short story. I've known Bradley for, I want to say, a couple years now, right, Brad?
You know, we it's funny because we have a lot of similarities in our lives, and then when our paths finally cross, it's like, dude, me too. I don't know how many times we said that and getting to know each other. It's like, me too. We have the same anniversaries. I don't know, same age. Well, wait a minute.
Yep.
I don't know about that.
Well, kind of. At heart.
And we have a passion for the games, so.
Exactly. And so Bradley is I like to say about Bradley is, hey, I'll explain to somebody who might not be into games. I'm like, like stand-up arcade games? They're like, yeah. I'm like, Bradley brings them back to life. And I think that's like I think that is kind of all-encompassing. And you have a very specific era. What's your era of gaming that you mess with?
Well, I like to collect 1976 to about 1984. Now, there are a few exceptions in my collection. I do have a few games that are outside of those years. But generally speaking, that's the era of games that when I was growing up was like the thing. And so a lot of the games just have a certain memory, or the sounds have some sort of attachment that resonates in my mind or something. I don't know. But for me, those are the games that I remember playing or watching at arcades being played.
Right.
And so that's why I have the most fondness for those.
And when did you start collecting? How many years ago was it? You think you started not just had one, because you probably had one before you were like, you know what, I'm going to start really getting these things.
Right. Well, it's funny because, I did get my first game arcade machine when I was in 8th grade. And I remember paying for that. I paid $60 for an Asteroids arcade machine. And this is at a time when, I'm in 8th grade. So I had $56 in actual cash, and the last $4 I had to pay for with quarters, believe it or not. It's
There
true.
you go. I like it.
But to answer your question, I'd say, honestly, I started collecting probably about 10 years ago. Is where I really started getting into it, more so than just having a couple games around, but actually saying, you know what? I kind of want to build a little collection here.
Yeah, and you have way more than just a collection of games. I don't want somebody listening to think, oh, so he just goes out and buys these games and blah, 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 and then has them in the house. You get stuff that's not even working. You get stuff that you plug in and nothing comes up, and you go from the circuit boards to the monitors to the power supply, and I mean, you totally refurbish these things.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, that's probably how I prefer to find the games. If I can find them not working, usually that means that you can get into them for a price a little bit better than what it would be if it was working. And going into pretty much any game, I know, like, this is going to cost me this. This part isn't available. I'll never find this thing.
Right.
So I kind of know right away, like, is this going to be a lopsided investment, or is it going to be something where I can say, hey, I can keep it for a few years and then maybe I'll get rid of it and I'm not going to lose my shirt on it. So it's just a passion of mine. I've just enjoyed doing it. I love playing the games. I love fixing them more than I actually love playing them. I hate to say that, but it's true. I spend more time fixing and repairing and getting the next game up and running than actually playing the last one I fixed.
What do you feel like has been your biggest hurdle? Like, what is there one problem that comes up all the time that you're like, oh no, this game doesn't have this, and that's always hard to get a hold of?
Well, not so much that, but I will say that there is so many things that never make sense, and that seems to be the most frequent problem. It's like somebody saying 1 + 1 is 2. Well, in video game world, that never seems to be the case. So my wife jokes about it with me. She says, well, listen, when I say I'm going to go out and work on this game, and my classic line is, it should only take a few minutes. And my wife looks at me and is like, yeah, right. Because she knows that she's not going to see me for 2 hours. So something that should have taken a couple minutes, because of this or because of this or because of this, ends up taking 2 hours or more. Or I walk in the house saying, this is ridiculous. It's so stupid, I can't get it working, and it makes no sense. My famous line is, it makes no sense. So I would say probably that's the more common thing than anything. As far as parts, there is some availability for some of these classic games for parts, some reproduction parts out there, and then I have enough context from over the years of doing this that I can ring somebody up and say, hey, I think I might be able to get one of these games. I'm going to need this and this. Any idea where I can find one of those? And there are people that I network with that will tell me straight up, like, oh boy, that you're not. And when I hear that, I'm like, okay, this isn't the game for me then.
So I know that you're always going for the deal. And I love that, because I'm a deal man myself. I love getting a good price on something. You know how I am. I love paying the least amount for something that I can. And it's not even because, because I'm cheap, but there's also just that. There's also just that, like, you know what? You always feel better about spending the money when you feel like you've gotten your money's worth. So I know that you're always going for a deal. I got to go on a game run with you. What is that, 2 weekends ago, which was super cool. I'd never been on one with you, but has there been a game that you saw that came across your plate and you were like, oh, I don't care what it is, I'm paying the money for this, like I'm getting it?
Well, like you guys, I'm married, so there's a limit. No matter how much I want it, but there, I would say probably there have been a handful of games, and I mean literally a handful, that I said, you know what? I'm going to make this happen no matter what. And those games, just for everybody out there that's listening, one game is the Environmental Discs of Tron game, which is probably one of the most sought after arcade games by arcade collectors, whether they're older collectors or newer collectors or whatever. That seems to be one of the, as they call, grail games out there that everybody wants. There are some of them out there, but they do fetch a really high price tag. And, it's just one of those things when I finally said, I'm going to commit to this. I knew what it was going to cost me approximately. And believe it or not, I got into mine for just an incredible price. And I was very fortunate to do that. On a side note, I will say this. Recently, I grew up in a very small town, very, very small town where everybody knows everybody, and it's kind of one of those things where, an old country town type of thing. Well, recently, I should say, probably a couple of years back now, I ended up running into one of my kindergarten teachers or something, and she's like, I had you when you were blah, blah, blah. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Anyway, long story short, I ended up talking to her because I had talked to a guy at Home Depot one day about, I was trying to find some carpeting that matched this inside carpeting inside this Discs of Tron game. There's a thing that you lean up against and it's carpeted, and I wanted to get that carpeting replaced, so I went to Home Depot, and I was matching this up, and the guy says, well, what is this for? And I said, well, it's actually for an arcade game. And he's like, oh, my brother-in-law gets into those games or something. And I said, what's your brother's name? Turns out it's the son of my old kindergarten teacher. So I ended up talking to her. It's a real small world. But the long and the short of the story is this. I ended up going to her house, and turns out upstairs in this old country, it's on a farm.
Yeah.
On the second floor of the house, here's one of these Environmental Discs of Tron games.
No way.
So, it's the weirdest places that you find some of these things, but that's just how this hobby works. We're talking literally 20 minutes from my house, and yet there are people that would drive over 1,000 miles for one of these.
Oh,
that's
my gosh.
amazing.
That is incredible.
Yeah,
Timothy Hall wanted to get a... what were you talking about, Timothy? Well, I told Timothy what you were into. He was like, oh, I can't wait to talk to this guy.
It probably falls in the vein, too. The cocktail cabinets for...
was it Miss Pac-Man?
Pac-Man.
Original
Pac-Man, yeah. I really like those.
I have one in my living room, actually.
That's awesome. Yeah, one of these days I'm going to get one. I've seen them on Craigslist. I'm kind of... waiting for that right moment where I can probably pick one up and make a small repair or something. So, I dabble in that stuff. I'm nowhere near as technical with those kind of things, but I've seen them. I like them, and one of these days I'm going to own one and probably just put it in my man cave or something.
Timothy, is it kind of like I was? I was like, I want to be the guy that has an arcade in his house. Like, I just want to be the guy that has a video game arcade in his home.
It's kind of that, but it's more, I want to be the guy that owns one MAME cabinet and one cocktail, and that's it. Because I don't want it to get... Yeah, and don't get me wrong. Like, I love arcade machines, and kind of like how Bradley was talking about, like, there's just... Since we grew up with actual arcades existing... We have fond memories of going to arcades and being surrounded by those sounds. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Oh yeah.
Like then that will almost never happen again. You know what I mean? Like as in terms of having an actual arcade. Like if I get a cocktail Pac-Man, I'm gonna have to eat pizza on it just like I used to. In the old days. Because Because that's just those are my fond memories of being in the arcade and being surrounded by like music and then having all the game sounds going on around you. Those are my memories, and it's like it's so sad that we can just never get to live that again. But I will bring the arcade home. I will do what I have to.
I know that's right. It's deep down in you. I'm the same way. I can rent some skates too and just skate around you if that'll make you feel like you're more back in the day. Get some roller skates out and do it.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean,
a couple of points there that I'd like to address real quick if I could there. There's a couple different things that you brought up there. And, when we're talking about the MAME machines, you were just talking about that just a little bit. I will say that I'm very much a purist. I know that there are a lot of people out there that will say, I'll just get one of those multi-boards that runs like 60 classic games.
Right.
Believe it or not, I'm one of those weirdo people that can actually tell the difference in the Donkey Kong on a multi-board and the actual original Donkey Kong, though they look very much the same. And some of the games on those multi-games are dead on. But some of them, the look of them is just a little bit different. Some of them play a little different. And some of them, the sounds are just a little bit different. So I'm one of those strange guys that is a purist in this, in that I want the game, not only do I want to fix it, but I want to restore it back to exactly how it was when that arcade uncrated it there and put it on the floor. Like, that's how I want it to look, and I want it to play with the original, PCB in it, and all that sort of thing. That's sort of how I've kind of evolved into this. Years ago, I never started out saying, I'm going to have an arcade in my house or something like that. It was really through, I remember this game, and here I found it. You know what? I'm going to see if I can get this. And I will say that when I first got into games, I didn't know how to fix them.
Right.
And that was a really scary thing for me to say, here's this Pac-Man game. It's not working, though. I don't know what's wrong with it. I'm going to have to take it to somebody that can fix it. How much is that going to cost me, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And so eventually I got into it so much so that, different friends and stuff said, look, you just need to start diving into this yourself. Let me show you a couple things. And so that's kind of how I got into it. So when you said before about me having the technical know-how, I haven't been trained any more so than anybody else.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, trust me, I'm more of I've been repairing computers for 15 years. I've been repairing consumer gear, audio stuff for quite a while. I know how to solder, an entire board and stuff like that. But as far as getting into arcade machines, I know that's a whole different world, and I know that's something you got to dive deep into. The only reason I said I would be looking into getting a MAME is because if I brought more than two, my wife would kill me. It would be over at that point.
That's such a valid point, Gabe and Hall there. I got to tell you this. Now, I don't know how many people I have encountered over the years that have said to me, I would love to have a Frogger machine or something, but my wife would kill me. And I got to say,
right.
My wife, now Gabe's met my wife many times.
Yes.
My wife is a rock star when it comes to this stuff. She is totally supportive.
Is.
And honestly, she plays the games more than I do, because most of the time while I'm fixing something, she's playing something. And I will note that she has gotten really good at certain games. So don't let her fool you. A few years ago, we went to, a friend of mine was having an arcade party in Minnesota. We stopped over at his place, and he's got, different arcade collectors from the Midwest that had come over for this one day to play games and whatnot. So he's got the game Mario Brothers down in his basement, which I have as well. And my wife has mastered Mario Brothers. And I mean mastered. So she plays it dumb while she's there. She's like, okay, so now what, you jump on the guy or what? Playing it like she has no idea. And then schools these guys. I mean, just leaves them in the dust. And it's just like, yeah, exactly. Don't let her fool you guys. Don't let her fool you.
That's hilarious.
But my wife seriously is awesome, and I did mention that just a little while ago that I do have a Pac-Man cocktail in my living room. It was one of those things that I don't really get into the Pac-Man or the cocktail models of games, and for those of you that are listening, a lot of the games back in the day were released in the upright stand-up machines. Some of them were released in the stand-up and a cocktail version, which is the one with the glass top that you used to see in like Pizza Huts and stuff like that. And then there were other versions, the Cabaret model, which was like a smaller, shorter stand-up model. And then also some were in like the cockpit version, like a pole position or something where you would actually sit inside the machine and it was like a car type thing. But there was no rhyme or reason to how manufacturers did that. Sometimes they'd do an upright and a cocktail, and then sometimes it would be I don't know, just a cabaret and a upright or something. There was no rhyme or reason for it. But among collectors, cocktails generally aren't real collectible. They're cool, but they're not what people are really seeking unless it is a Pac-Man cocktail or something like that. So I do have a few cocktail machines. And when I finished the Pac-Man, restoring it, I should say, my wife said, well, this thing's cute. Let's bring it in the house. I was like, I got the thumbs up to bring it in the house. I'm bringing it in the house.
Exactly. Because you guys got rough winters. You're up in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Yeah. You guys have rough winters. And I've been to your house, so I know you have some down in the basement, and then you have some out in your garage. And so I know just that being in the garage has got to be freezing cold, so you're going to jump at any opportunity to get one of those bad boys in the house.
Absolutely. I have found that when she's not home, I can bring a game, put some cardboard down in my living room, and work on it there. As long as I get it out of the house before she gets home, I'm okay.
Exactly.
But I have probably about 30 games in my basement in a arcade down there, and then I have I don't even know. I would say probably 60, 70 games in my garage, which during the winter months are not played at all because of the cold. It's not good to run them in the cold. I also have a storage unit that has many, many, many games in it, and I also have a warehouse location that I have a ton of games stored at, as well as some games, believe it or not, out on locations yet that you still have people coming and playing and putting quarters into. So I have probably about 200 games. I can honestly say I don't know the exact number. I probably should for insurance purposes, but one of these days I'll get around to counting them or whatever. But the one thing I would like to say about that is that it's really amazing to see this collection of machines all together in one place.
Yes.
And that is really hard for people to grasp onto sometimes. To get all these games in one spot is really a feat in itself because they have come from all over the country.
Yeah.
And to end up in one location, it's great when you see them and say, hey, there's a Centipede, and there's a Mr. Do, and there's a Zaxxon, and there's a Tron, and there's a Tapper, and that's great. But to get them all there is another thing when you're talking about long-distance trips, shipping, staying up all night so that you could leave at 1 a.m. to go here and pick this up, and there's a lot to it. So when you see them, it's really pretty impressive.
Bradley, you say you got a long run coming up.
Tomorrow morning, I'm going to be leaving in the middle of the night to go driving several hundred miles, and I'm going to be picking up a total of 9 machines, maybe even more. The one location does have quite a few to pick from, and the price is right, and I love deals like that. So,
Exactly.
I'm very frugal, like Mr. Patillo there. So, but I absolutely love the excitement, I should say, of getting a bunch of games that you have no idea what's wrong with them, and literally going through one by one, plugging them in, trying to figure out what it's doing, what it's not doing, and then thinking that these games have probably been sitting in this location for years and years and years, not working.
Oh, yeah.
And now people can actually plug them in and play them and enjoy them again. That's like so cool.
That's pretty awesome.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
A collection of 200, man, isn't that competing with like some of the actual arcades that like the like the events are done at now. Like when somebody goes to break a new record, how they go to, what are the arcades they go to? I'm trying to think of the names. You'd probably know.
The one place that everybody gets into is the Fun Spot place in New Hampshire.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Now, that's where the King of Kong movie was filmed and all that. And I will say, and Gabe knows this, I'm not real social when it comes to a lot of the collectors and stuff like that. Like, nothing against them, and I'm happy to talk to them and stuff, but I'm not real big on like high scores and stuff like that. To me, it's just more of it reminds me of back in the day. And actually,
Oh, yeah.
not this past summer, but the year before, my wife and I came and stayed with Gabe and his wife for a few days. And one of the things that we did is we went to this place. I don't remember what it was, but it had an arcade in it. No, it had modern
we were
games.
at the Opryland Hotel.
Right, and it had an arcade, and there was modern games in there. But we walked in there because, of course, we're gamers. We got to go in, and our wives are like rolling their eyes, saying like, "Oh, brother, of course," So
As they hand us the dollar bills, we're like, "Yeah, can I get $1?"
So we walk in there, and I will say I was immediately brought back in time by the smells in the air. Now, and I'm not even saying anything bad about it. It was just there was a certain aroma that was like, man, I remember this. It was so weird because it was like flashback for me. And that's how it is when, being around all these games and they're on and you hear all the sounds they're making and stuff like that. It's just cool.
That's awesome, man.
So Bradley, so you're going on this couple 100-mile run. What do you pick these games up in? Because I was with you in your van. There's no way you're getting more than 2-3 games in there.
Yeah, well, for the record, I've done 4 in my van at once, and that wasn't an easy trip.
No
and
way.
That was with the back doors open all the way home. So, but usually, I've done, and I've sent you picture mail of different game runs where I've got a trailer full of games.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is my first. I'm actually going to get to the location, or I should say 10 minutes away from the location, and I have a U-Haul trailer rented, and I'm going to load up my van and this U-Haul trailer and bring them all back to Green Bay. There's a couple that I'm probably going to keep. The others I will get up and running and sell, or keep them for location pieces, because having games on location, and this is cool to see people playing these games today, but like for me, I kind of treat it like I was an operator back in the day. Like every so often I go in and pull out a couple pieces and put a couple different ones in there so that there's a variety for people that frequent the establishment more than once or twice or whatever, that they say, oh, now he's got a Frogger here. That's cool. I'll play that one or something, so that there is a variety. It's just for fun for me, but at the same time, some of these pieces that I pick up, like tomorrow, are very possibly going to be games that will be out on a route. Last summer, I picked up a Space Invaders game that had been sitting in a guy's garage for years and years and years. I got it home. I spent probably about a half hour on it, and about an hour and a half later, it was on a location because I had an open spot at once. So to have this in somebody's garage and then go to people are enjoying it is pretty cool.
That's awesome. I freaking love it. Timothy Hall, we got to get you one, man. We got to get you one up and running at the house.
After we purchase a home, I've been thinking about, because I don't know if you know, Bradley, it's not hard to find a home in Tennessee with a basement, but it's a lot harder than, up north, because the humidity we have here, it has something to do with the ground, and it's just a lot harder for them to build basements here. But I'm looking for a home with a basement so I can at least put a couple units down there. I mean, if it were my pick, I would probably get maybe 3 or 4, and I would need to get the Cocktail, and I'm a lot younger, so I would have a Street Fighter 2.
Exactly. Thank you.
I'm trying to think what else I would get.
I think Street Fighter 2 is like a must-have for somebody who grew up 30 and under
from the 90s. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Say, anybody that was gaming.
Let me ask you guys. I gotta ask you. Well, first of all, I just gotta say the basement thing. Yeah, I mean, I do take for granted that I have basement space to be able to do that. When I stayed at Gabe's house, and he's like, "There's no basement." I felt like I was in Pee-wee's Big Adventure. There's no basement in the Alamo. Like what are you talking about? But as far as that goes, I gotta ask you guys, like, what game brings you back to the day? Like, if there was an arcade game that you would say, man, I remember playing that and putting quarters in it like it was yesterday, what game would it be, Hall?
Either Simpsons Arcade or the Turtles.
Oh, really? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah. The reason those bring me back is because you'd have, you and your buddies standing around the machine. Everybody's freaking out because Shredder's just turned everybody into little turtles, and you got to hurry up and put your quarters in and continue. You know what I'm saying? Everybody freaking out like that. That's not.
Yeah.
That's gone. That's gone forever. I mean,
it's not forever. It's not gone forever. There's going to be something. There's going to be something that brings us back together. I know that we have the multiplayer now, but I can't give up on the public get together and do this thing, whether it's the freaking slapping your quarter against the glass saying I'm next or what it's going to be, but what it's going to look like. But I think there's going to be something that brings us all back together in that way.
There was a day where these manufacturers, now the era that I collect is the era where video games just went insane. People could not get, I cannot explain the cultural impact that video games had at that time. We're talking Pac-Man sleeping bags, Cubert lunchboxes. We're talking Zaxxon puffy stickers, for
television
your sticker
shows.
book. It was that big. But it's a lot different now. When you're talking about video games now, I think people have grown up playing them. They're just used to it and stuff. But for me, it was like, this was the coolest thing under the sun. It was just the coolest thing. And for me, I love to go back and relive that. To me, I don't want to say like I'm stuck in the 80s, but at the same time, I really enjoy the simplicity of the gameplays back in that day and age. And there's a couple games from back in that era that I really love playing myself to this day, and that I feel I'm pretty good at. But also, I feel that a lot of the games from that era were completely unique, new concepts, and it was cutting edge at that time. How many different unique features that games had that, it was like, where's the limit? Where can we go with this? What else can we do? And I swear that must have been so fun for these manufacturers to be able to come up with, hey, you know what? I got an idea. And for somebody to just say, let's go with that. Let's try it out. Let's see how it does. And some of those ideas went huge.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty amazing.
I think for me, gosh, I'm trying to remember like going to the arcade. I always played weird games. I was just that kid. Like, number one, me and my brother are like 4.5 years apart. So at that age, there was nothing he could beat me in. Like, it was just impossible. He wasn't strong enough to do, track and field or anything like that. But I think, like, if I were to think back, I think it's got to be Dragon's Lair 2, probably, which is kind of a cop-out because it's not really a game. Like, you can't actually control anything about it. But I used to love that game, and I love the story, and I love the way it looked. And then there was another one called...
Boo, boo, boo. Dragon's Lair 2 was a dud. Dragon's Lair was a great game. Dragon's Lair would have people lined up out the door to play it. Dragon's Lair 2 was a dud. There were a few sequels back in the day that were duds. One was Spy Hunter. Spy Hunter 2 came out, which
Spy
I actually
Hunter 2
have.
was awful.
I have one, and I will say that it is probably regarded as the worst sequel to a game ever. So the sequel's not always a good thing, but Dragon's Lair 2, Gabe, come on.
I know.
You're killing me.
That's just what I remember. Like, as a kid going and visit. It's more that it holds a place. Like, it's when I'd go visit my grandparents, and they would take me to Aladdin's castle and let me run around. And that game was in the front, and it was huge, even though there was like one joystick and one button. It was big enough to be a Simpsons cabinet almost. It feels like. But you know
what is funny? I got to mention this real quick. Is that how many games that I get today that have cigarette burns on them, and it's a reminder of like, yeah, you used to be able to smoke in malls and stuff like that, and so people while they're playing, they just set their cigarette right on the game, and it would like burn into the the plexi or whatever. But you don't really think about that today. But how absurd that was back in the day. That was just normal.
Yeah,
And that's a part of our memories. Even like I think back to that, like the smell of an arcade and the sounds of an arcade. I mean, that's one of those things that's included because you could smoke indoors.
Right.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
Crazy.
it's weird.
that is so crazy.
So when it comes to restoration stuff, finding parts that are, you see the typical stuff. Every pole position around the steering wheel assembly, there's a plastic shroud. To find one of those shrouds that does not have burns because it's got a perfect lip on it, perfect for putting your cigarette on there. To find one that does not have burns is as many pole positions that were made. Pole position was a huge game back in the day, driver game. And as many as those that were made, to find a burn-free plastic bezel that goes around the steering assembly is like next to impossible because it was so common. So of me being a restoration person, some of those parts are a little hard to come by.
Yeah, I bet. Oh, Bradley, we got to talk about you're going to be in a museum. Can you talk about that
Well,
a little
not
bit?
me.
I know
Not me
you're not.
personally.
You personally have to stand there for 3 months. But your works are going to be in a museum.
Right. Yeah. This hasn't been announced publicly yet, but it will be
Sorry.
within the next couple weeks. But no, that's fine. Here in Green Bay, I've been working with the Neville Public Museum about doing a kind of like a flashback in time. Let's take a step back into the 80s and just see what it was like to revisit some of these games. And literally, this has been like probably a 3.5 year process of kind of going back and forth and negotiating. And finally, we've gotten it together, and it's going to start the end of May 2013 and run through the second week in September. And it's going to feature about 85 to 90 of my
Ooh-wee.
games, something like that.
Wow.
So
That's amazing.
yeah, I think it'll be a great opportunity for people to come and check these out. You don't know how often when people find out that I have some of these games, the first thing, the most common thing is, do you have a ...
Of course. Of course.
Because they think back to the game that they used to play. Do you have a Tron? Do you have a Zaxxon? Do you have a Galaga? Burger Time? So, for people to be able to come and see a lot of these games again, think about that. If you said, hey, do you know anybody that's got a Burger Time machine? How hard would it be for you to find somebody that has one?
Right.
Back in the day, all you'd have to do is go to a local arcade, you'd find one.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So people to think back of their favorite game and then now to be able to see it, I think will be a great opportunity for a lot of people, and I'm looking forward to it. So, Hall, Patillo, you're invited.
I know. Yeah, we got to take a road trip.
That's incredible. I will have to come see that because we'll be up north eventually because my wife's parents live in Michigan. I don't know how much of a drive it is. I'm sure it is a bit, but I would like to see that. That sounds really amazing, man.
Yeah, thank you. It's really something I'm pretty proud of. It's a lot of work because I have a lot of pieces yet that I'm restoring that aren't museum ready yet, but I definitely want to be featured in this show. So I'm kind of up against the clock on a lot of these machines, and I don't want to rush a restoration either, because then I'm going to be looking at it for the next how many years saying, I wish I would have done that better or whatever. But it's quite a process and quite an expense to restore a game, but some of these games fetch a really high value today. So, it's not like it's all for naught, but, it does take some time and it does take some money and so I just kind of take it at my own pace, I guess.
No, that's freaking awesome. I can't wait to get up there and see that thing. Me and Hall need to meet and then do a road trip since we haven't met still. But
right, yeah.
This is going to sound so stupid, but is there going to be a Play Choice 10 in the show?
I don't know that that's going to make it. I do have a Play Choice 10. I do have a Punch-Out. Those are the two Nintendo cabinets that are usually paired up because they both have the dual monitor. There were some Play Choice 10 games that were just a single monitor, but the one that everybody's seeking out is the dual monitor. With the top has the instructions on the different games, and then the bottom is the actual gameplay monitor. So
Yeah, that I'm gonna have to add that to my list then. Even though it's just a Nintendo, it's like that's still
It's
awesome.
iconic.
Well, you guys are home gamers for the most part, and I will say this: that, like, take for example, Nintendo, the original Nintendo system. You remember Super Mario, right? So, you could play Super Mario for probably, I don't know, 16 hours without being done if you really wanted to. Now, playing Super Mario on a Play Choice 10, you'll be done probably in 10 minutes because it is much, much harder. It is exactly the same, but where there's little tricks and stuff on the home version, there aren't those tricks sometimes or extra guys here or whatever on the actual arcade. Plus, playing it with an arcade controller is a totally different story. So just because you're a good home gamer on that does not necessarily mean that you would be good on the arcade, which is interesting.
Yeah, I didn't really know that they made any actual changes to it. Like I just figured it was an NES, like not actual hardware NES, but I figured it was the same hardware with the ROMs running or something.
Yeah, you guys are going to get text now. I can honestly say I don't know the exact differences because that's a little bit on the edge of my, collecting era stuff. If you were to ask me about all the tricks in a Donkey Kong, I could probably tell you a lot of those things. But as far as that goes, I'm not really familiar, but I do know that it's much harder. And those Play Choice 10 games, there is some differences too. Like even the game I mentioned earlier, Mario Brothers. Now I have the original Mario Brothers arcade. And then I also have it on a Play Choice 10, which for those of you that are listening, it's these removable cartridges. It's a PCB that sits inside the game, just like other arcade games. But they have slots that you can put in these little. I would say they're probably about 8 to 10 inches long by about 2 inches wide. They're little cartridges that you slide in. So that's where you get the 10 choices. 10 different slots, and you can play any of those. And if you want to play different games, you just slide out the PCB and slide on a couple of those cartridges, and now you can play Duck Hunt. Now you can play Track and Field. Now you can play whatever, So, but the Mario Brothers, why I bring that up is the look of it is completely different. It looks different. It's kind of like taking say Dr. Mario on a Nintendo and then Dr. Mario on a Wii. It's similar, but it's different.
Yeah, sure.
So
Bradley, before we let you go, you got to tell us, like, just something that, and you've obviously told us a bunch of knowledgeable stuff, but just what's something fun and interesting that us guys that are, PlayStation guys that are a little younger than us that didn't get to go to the arcade, and guys that are older than us that went to the arcade but just might not know, just something that's just fun that, that people might not know about, a certain game or a certain maker or what have you.
Sure. Well, a couple real quick ones here. Real simple. The game Jungle King was well known for its look with Tarzan, and it even does the thing where he's beating his chest at the beginning. And I'm not going to try and impersonate it. I'll let you do that, Mr. Patillo. Right. So they made several hundred of these machines, got it out there called Jungle King, and guess what? They forgot to ask the people from Tarzan, hey, is it okay if we use your Tarzan character on the artwork of the game and the actual game? So they're, pending lawsuits. So they right away take all these games and they redo it so that it's a guy with a safari hat swinging instead of on vines on ropes, and they call it Jungle Hunt. And and they take out the Tarzan thing at the beginning and stuff like that. So things like that happened all the time. Also, there's a game called Journey, which is based off of the Rock Band Journey, which is a very, very collectible machine. It actually has a cassette player inside the game that when you get through with the 5 levels, it gets you to the bonus round. During the bonus round, that cassette player kicks in with the song Separate Ways on a loop tape playing during the during the bonus round, which is a really unusual concept. But again, the sky was the limit.
Right.
Originally, in that game, there was a camera mounted on top of the machine, the prototypes, that allowed the player to take a picture of their face, and their face would be put on the bodies of these players playing the game.
Oh, wow.
But they quickly realized that people were taking pictures of not their face, and so that didn't work. So just things like that. One other little quick thing that I should mention too is that the thing about finding some of these machines now, you can talk about a Pac-Man or a Donkey Kong. There were thousands and thousands and thousands of those made. Now, there were a lot of games that came out during that era. Manufacturers were putting out anything under the sun, like, oh, that seems like a good idea. Okay, let's make it. And it was, thrown out there because video games were so big that every game that you put out there seemed to, make some money, and that was the concept. Like, get as many games out there. So nobody thought years down the road somebody's going to want to restore this. So I better hang on to this one or whatever. A lot of these games got scrapped out. But there were games that were limited production. One of the games that I own is a game called The Three Stooges, and it was made in 1984. The company that made it went out of business as it was being produced. There was about 200 of these games made.
Wow.
Now, this was during the time where there were hundreds of games that came out, every year. Nobody thought, there's only 200 of these. Someday these will be rare. We better put some of these aside or something, So in existence today, I'm guessing there's probably maybe 15 or 20, maybe.
Wow, and you have
one of those is in my basement, So I mean, it's kind of an interesting thing when you reflect back on those. Nobody thought, hey, I should hang on to this,
Yeah,
it's
man.
funny.
Golly, that is crazy.
Hindsight is 2020, man.
Hindsight is definitely
right,
2020.
exactly. Trust me, I remember going back to the arcade when these games were like, they were not drawing money anymore. And there would be price tags on these games. And we're talking like, here's a Galaga, $79. Here's a Tron, $100. Here, unheard of prices today. But, they were just looking to get rid of those because people didn't want to play those anymore. They wanted the newer games, the Street Fighters or the Gauntlets or the whatever, whatever it might be. So, it's funny to think that at one time I could have probably cleaned house, but I wasn't thinking someday.
Exactly. Well, Bradley C., man, we really appreciate you being with us representing Green Bay, Wisconsin. Thanks for coming on Married to the Games, man.
Thanks a lot, man.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, you guys. And if you guys ever make it up to the Green Bay area, make sure and look me up. I definitely love chatting with other people that have a passion for these games. And, I'd love to show you some of these. And that's half of it, too, is sharing it with other people to say, hey, remember this game. So definitely look me up and we'll connect on that.
All right, Bradley. We'll talk to you later.
That sounds awesome, man.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right, see you, buddy.
Thank you.
Bradley C. in the building.
That was pretty amazing, man. I know that you said it was going to be a 30-minute segment, but I could, we could just keep going with it, man.
I know.
That's pretty amazing.
I love it, man. He's got such a love for what he does, and I think that's one of the things that first ever drew me to him. I was introduced to him through a guy in our band. We just happened to be doing a show in Green Bay, and he already knew him because Bradley does radio, and he used to play my buddy's song on the radio all the time. And so he had gone over to his house, and he came back, and his eyes were really wide, and I was like, "What's up?" He was like, "Gabe, I didn't want to leave, but you got to come see this guy's basement." And just because the guys on the road know me, they know that I love freaking video games and working it out. And so, man, I went over there and I was like, holy crap. I mean, it's just, for somebody like me or you, it just felt like heaven. You know what I mean? It was like,
yeah.
We were like, this is the bomb. So,
That's
man,
awesome,
big shout outs to Bradley C. Thanks so much for coming on the show. All right. So moving on. Timothy Hall, what you got for me?
Well, a iDevice came out this week.
Yeah, it did.
You don't say that a lot, but Yeah, actually, no. The funny thing is, I watched part of it live.
Okay.
And
talking about the Apple keynote.
Yeah, the keynote. They announced the iPad 4, and I was just like, what?
Wasn't that weird?
Why?
Wasn't that weird?
Yeah. I was like, why was that necessary? That was not necessary at all.
Didn't the 3 just come out? The third generation just come out?
March.
I mean, they have like a 6-month thing. That was weird.
They are
for me.
really, really risking it with people, I think. Like, that is not right.
I don't get it. I personally, I don't get it. Okay, sorry. Continue.
Well, that's the thing. You can't have 2 generations launch in the same year. That is messed up.
I
You
just
know what
think
I mean?
well, and it just doesn't feel like the bump ups are that big. Like in between 1 and 2, I felt like that was a good, like the iPad 1, when you look at the iPad 1, you're like, that thing is thick and clunky, and I think it doesn't have a camera on the back or something like that. And so when you go to the 2 and you add a camera and it's so much thinner, you know what I'm saying? It feels like that's a good move. It's like their whole, iPhone 3, 3S, iPhone 4, 4S thing. You know what I'm saying? Then
Well, no,
even
definitely.
4S to the 5, yeah, it's a different body, but it just doesn't feel like that big of a thing. Like, yeah, the thing's a little longer and you get another row of icons, but I'm with you on that one, man.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the iPad 2, you say to yourself, this is probably the iPad they wanted to make first. but
Right.
It just
Yeah.
wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
When you look at the iPad 4, you don't say, this is what the iPad 3 was supposed to be. You just say, well, they got a new connector, and they're saying it's better performance. Yeah, it probably is, but it probably really doesn't matter because there's so many people on the iPad 2 still.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, I mean, I think that they did this to say, let's get that connector out there. I think that's probably why they did
You know
it.
what? I felt like that too, and I'm kind of on the fence. I understand that we have to move forward with the connector.
Yes.
But that last connector,
that needed to happen.
yes, and I do understand that, but that is a painful transition.
Oh no, I understand. I mean, it's just like getting rid of FireWire 400 was kind of painful in itself.
Right.
And then getting rid of 800 just now. That's even more painful because now you've got it. Well, actually, I take that back because you can get an adapter for your Thunderbolt port.
Yeah, sure.
So it's still there technically, but you're looking at education, for instance, in these labs and stuff. When people are trying to hook up a FireWire drive or a FireWire interface or something, now they're gonna have to go get an adapter from the tech department or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, there was just, considering that the iMac is the way it is, there was no reason to take it out. And there was also no reason to take out the ROM drive, to be honest with you. I mean,
yeah.
well, I don't want to say there was no reason. I guess we're kind of moving forward with, downloads and stuff. But still, it's like some people still need to burn discs, like, for instance, again, education. It's like
Yeah.
you have
I'm
to
with
burn
you.
discs for your projects and stuff like that. Because, I mean, I just graduated not that long ago, and
Yeah.
I was still submitting DVDs and CDs of my assignments.
Right.
So-
and I understand, go ahead and force everybody's hand. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's
Yeah.
what okay, guys, let's get up off these CDs. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, here we go. But at the same time, you're like, I mean, but I tell you this, Hall, I was like, you know what? It's going to be, when I first got an iPad 2, I got it for a present, and I wanted it real bad. And somebody got it for me, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. Thank you guys so much. And next thing I know, I stopped bringing my laptop out on the road.
Yep.
And I noticed that even though I thought that not having a CD drive was going to be a big deal, it hasn't been.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I don't have the option when I've been out on the road, I'm like, oh crap, I don't have a CD drive. But I couldn't tell you the last time I did anything with a CD.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still in that business because I'm in audio mastering, so it's like the CD is still really important to me. But I am like 1 in 100 million probably, so it's all good.
But that we're kind of in the same business: music, mixing, mastering. But we
Well,
found
yeah.
so much that it was so much. But since we're on the road, we found so much that using our servers has been so much better.
Plus you're in a
waiting for-
national act, so you guys are probably selling more on downloads than you would with CDs.
Yeah, I think.
Whereas a lot of my
we've gone that
clients
way.
are local bands all across the nation, and it's like at the shows, man, CDs are still the standard.
Yeah.
So at local shows.
Which totally makes sense. I'm just talking about for personal use.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah,
it used
definitely.
to be you would look in your car and have 85 CDRs unmarked, and you're like, "Ah, crap! What song is
Oh,
this?
yeah.
And what song is
Oh,
this?"
yeah.
And it's just, man, that's really dwindled for me. And just emailing and using servers, and hey, just go download it here, and zip drive and blah blah. It's zipped up and just unzip it when you get. I mean, it's just gotten that easy. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, we're actually behind on our bandwidth and availability of internet as far as a country is concerned. So like when I see like that tech is starting to, well, not starting to, but has become such a common thing now.
Yeah.
It makes complete sense. I mean, you go to Japan and their internet connection's 10 times as fast as ours is.
Right. Right.
So they've been doing that.
Okay. So back to the mini.
Yes. Can I just say something real fast?
Oh yeah, do whatever you want.
329. What were they thinking?
Dude, trust me. That's the exact. My wife does not watch keynotes, and I just happened to put the keynote on yesterday just because I wanted to get caught up. And she was like, 300. She was like, "Are you kidding me?" I was like, "I don't know what to tell you. I don't work there."
Yeah. No, I completely understand. My wife was interested at 249 probably.
Oh, they'd fly off the shelves at 249.
Oh, that's what I'm trying to figure out is my wife was saying if it's 249, we're just going to go get two.
See?
Like right away.
Yep. See?
When I text her and I said it's 329, she said not interested.
That's exactly my wife was like, she was like, if it was $299, I would have said let's get one.
Yeah, even at $299, I would say we can stretch that. We can, because we'll buy it off Amazon. There won't be any tax or anything, So
Right.
we'll still get them. But no, $329. It to me, and this is going to sound stupid. I'm not an iFanboy or anything. I like Apple products.
Yeah.
I really do, and
Yeah.
I own them. But $329, I think, is a little arrogant. To be honest with you,
It just feels
like,
a
and
little
that's so
expensive.
weird to say.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's weird to say because your competitor, and yes, I know they were saying this is not a 7-inch tablet. This is so much different. Yes, it's different, but it's the same idea.
What?
It's the same idea. We got a smaller tablet that's more mobile.
Yep.
I think that launching at $249, not only would they still make a profit, because I know they would,
Oh yeah, of course.
but launching at $249 would just completely decimate the competition.
Oh, it wouldn't even be close. And the thing about the differences, I like you said that. I think people only know the differences because they're told the differences. Does
Yeah.
that make sense? I have a 1080.
That's the truth.
I have a 1080p television at my house. My buddy's got a 720p television at his house. If we're just watching TV, I'm not like, I have a 1080p at home that I'd rather be watching this on. You know what I'm saying? Sure, there's things that you can tell the difference, but there's nothing like going to the store and having them sitting next to each other where you can really see the difference. You know what I mean? Because he doesn't come over my house and he's like, oh, man, Apprentice looks way clearer on this television. You know what I'm saying? It's not, they don't even broadcast at 1080p. So it's like,
Yeah.
So I think it's only because they pointed out, here's an Android tablet, here's this. Ours is 7.9, y'all. Theirs is just 7. And you're like, okay, keep it going. Now, what they should have said, I think that wins the argument, is this is an iPad. This is not an iPad. And you're like, that's all I needed to know, because that's all anybody cares about. And I'm a Droid guy. I have a Droid phone. I'm a Windows guy. I'm a Google guy. I love it. But there just ain't no beating that iPad right now. I have Windows. I'm a Google guy. I'm not a Mac guy. But I love the freaking iPad. That's the only I feel like argument they should have made. Not like, look at this inches and look at this inches and look at this pixel, look at this pixel. Just tell them this is an iPad and this is not. So they're going to go get the iPad regardless. And I think that's why they price it at $330.
Exactly. The whole time they were describing these features and this is why it's different, blah, 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 blah. I felt like the whole time they were doing that, they were saying, This is why it's going to be more expensive. This is why it's going to be more expensive. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That makes sense.
That they were trying to convince you, okay, we're about to shock you with the price tag. So
Yeah.
we're going to explain these reasons that it's so much better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think the average consumer does not care. I think that the iPad mini launching at $249 would make them care, though, because they'd say, okay, the Kindle Fire HD is $199, but the iPad's $249. I'm getting the iPad.
Right.
Screw this.
Right.
Or they'd go to the store and see the Nexus 7 16 gig sitting on the shelf for $249 and the iPad mini sitting on the shelf for $249 and say, obviously, the iPad mini is the better buy.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, that's not even...
It's not even close.
Fanboyism aside, there's no argument there.
No, and
that's why they should have launched at the most $299.
dude, it would have been a freaking wrap. My wife does not do apps. She does not do games. She does not do any of that. She would have wanted that thing if it was $299 for sure.
Exactly. My wife, not that many apps, but for reading, it would have been perfect. For just doing some browsing on the couch and stuff, perfect.
Yeah, Facebook, all that.
And it's not that much. It's not that much less, but it's the principle. They priced it perfectly for you to say, "Well, shoot, I might as well just save up and get the full-fledged thing."
That's
you know what I mean?
That was what was the shocker to me. I'm like, so
Exactly.
if the iPad is that the regular size one is not that much because the mobility of it. I mean, the iPad's already pretty skinny for what it does, and I mean, I don't see the big difference. And I'm not like, ooh, I got to get the smaller one just because I can hold it with one hand. Like that's not an argument made to me, or that it's a
No.
What was the weight reference he said? As he said, it's as light as what a bundle of paper or something really weird.
Yeah,
a pad of paper.
A pad of paper. Yeah.
I was like, what does that mean? Like, so how many pages is that? How many pages is a pad?
Every time they talk about weight or size or something like that, I'm just like, I don't care.
Right. Now, when he said
Like,
it was
do I care? I've got a 3-pound laptop sitting on my lap most of the time. I don't care.
Yeah. When he did say that it was, when he brought it to term and said, you know, it's as thick as a pencil. Like but your imagination is like, oh snap, a pencil, that's thin. You know what I mean? So that was a good argument, but the weight thing I thought was just a terrible argument.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the entire time they were just saying, "This is why it's $329. This is why it's $329."
Well, I tell you,
don't be mad at us.
Right, exactly. Well, here's a good thought though, and I want you to speak on this. What does this do for the Vita and the 3DS?
At $249, it would have killed them.
Sure.
And I know the 3DS has, the games and it has a following and stuff, but I never see kids toting around 3DSs. I'm sorry, I don't.
Right.
They got iPod Touches.
Yep.
Period.
Sure.
Like, that is you remember when, I don't want to say when we were kids, but when we were younger, let's say high school.
Okay.
You know how you'd see kids toting around like Game Boy Advance or something like that?
Sure, of course.
Yeah, I mean, that was everywhere.
Uh-huh.
All kids had those.
Oh, yeah.
Now it's different. All kids have iPod Touches.
Yep.
That's just the way it is
Yep.
now.
Yep.
So an iPad mini launching at $249, I could see kids toting that around. It's almost the same price as a Touch.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And even that's the thing is, even at $329, you're still going to see those people that don't care. And I think that's why Apple was like, let's just do it anyway. But at $249, their market share would go back to where it was iPad 1 era, where they pretty much
totally agree with that. I would love to just ask someone like, so why the $30?
Yeah, what is this extra $30 doing?
Exactly. And they probably would turn around to me and ask me what does $30 make a difference. But it just does feel a little different. I don't know why. It just does.
I mean, like I said, it feels arrogant.
Yeah.
Because really, having it at $299 would make the most sense. $299, $399, $499. There's your iPad models. You know what I mean?
Gosh. Yeah. Oh, well.
Yeah, $329 is such an odd price.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, I hate to keep harping on it, but I just think that was a big misstep, and I think their stock is gonna is going to reflect that.
Yeah, I feel you on that. And then for the Vita, I don't think I know I haven't. Have you ever seen anyone playing a Vita outside the store yet?
I saw a Best Buy associate playing one while he was on the job.
That does not count.
Oh yeah, outside the store.
I mean, like, have you ever been like at the mall and looked over and seen a kid playing a Vita?
No, not at all.
And I love Sony. I have some of these companies out here that I love. I love Sony. I love Samsung. I like HTC, what they do with phones. I do love Apple. I don't have a lot of their products, but I love the way they do things and the way they make things look. And I think they make the sexiest looking products. But I just don't see that Vita anywhere. And I'm not trying to dog Sony, but I'm like, man, I don't see y'all's handheld anywhere. Now with the iPad being that small, that a kid's hands can really get around it and play a game. Ooh-wee. I mean, I'd be ducking because Apple is headhunting.
What do you think the parents are going to be saying? Am I going to get them this video game only device, or am I going to get them this iPad that they can use for school?
Oh, trust me.
And, stuff like that.
It's going to be the mini, that's for sure.
It just makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, but in terms of that, too, I mean, how many 3DSs have you seen in the wild? You
know what? I feel like I've seen at least a couple, though. I don't know if, but I don't know that they're 3D. I don't know if they're 3DSs. You know what I'm saying? Because there's a couple of those.
It could just be straight DSs.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But I feel like, I know a lot of kids that have at least gotten those over the years. Mm-hmm. And so, that's all they care about is that they were bought at one time. But, I mean, this is not going to help with the iPad mini coming out. It's not going to help anything.
I think the game changed with the iPod Touch, really. Because,
oh, yeah.
I mean, you can't argue with, am I going to get my kid 40 games for $40, or am I going to get him one game for $40? I just remember Krista's cousin, I think she's maybe 8 years old. I don't remember, or maybe, no, she's like 10 or 11, I think.
Okay.
She had we saw them at I'm trying to remember where we were. I think we had gotten together for somebody's birthday or something.
Sure.
And she was playing her iPod Touch, and I noticed she was playing a free-to-play game.
See?
And the entire time we were there, she was just playing the hell out of that game.
Right.
Why all not? Of that use for free.
Yep. Exactly. Temple
and it's
Run.
Exactly. And you buy them, I don't know, Mario 3D Land, and they play it for, I don't know, 12 hours, and then they put it away and they never play it again.
I mean,
what is the better investment? Especially for a kid. Like, if you would have told me, exactly, if you would have told me when I was a kid that I could just buy the console and then I'd be set on games for the rest of the time I owned it at maybe $100,
or save up $1. Hey, if you save up $1, you can get this game.
Save up exactly.
I could do that.
Wow. Oh, and the graphics look amazing. Really? Wow.
Yeah, I'll do that.
$1?
Or even these RPGs, like, JRPG fans like me, these Chaos Rings games and stuff that are coming out. You're like, man, $5 for a long RPG that looks good, and what I mean?
Yeah.
Shoot, heck yeah.
Yeah, I talk about Zelda being like one of my favorite games. Like, I've got 3 or 4 action RPGs, and I've never paid for any of them. They've just been free app of the day.
Exactly.
It's like, dang, man. How do you compete with that?
You can't, and they won't.
I think, I think the dedicated handheld device, I don't think the sales are ever going to be the same, and this may be it for them. This may be the last hurrah.
Unless, I can't think of, and hopefully they do, I can't think of anything that'll make it come back around. You know what I mean? I mean, it's...
Yeah,
I
know.
The iPad, and you can't be mad at Apple. That's a freaking good product. That's the bottom line.
Exactly. And I don't think it's necessarily Apple that started this 99-cent game revolution. I think it was just capitalism and competition.
Right.
Like when the App Store opened up, the small developers said, you know what? I spent maybe $5,000 making this game. I'm going to make it 99 cents and see where I can get with it.
And people were already used to buying singles for that much.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it was It was perfect timing, and to be honest with you, every game in the App Store ends up being 99 cents eventually.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I have a ton of games on my iPhone, and I've never paid more than 99 cents for them
Oh, I
because
have
I
a
just wait for them to
ton.
go on sale.
Oh, for sure. Me too. I have pages and pages.
Oh yeah, once the popularity dies down, it's like the developer's like, well, let's see, I could be making no money or 99 cents a pop.
Exactly. Thank
And
you.
then I'll get back at the top of the chart, you know.
Download it. Um, that's crazy. Yeah, iPad Mini. Apple should have been a little bit cheaper, but good job. Tip my hat to you again. It is
Yeah.
a
Oh
little
no, because you know it'll sell. It'll sell like hotcakes. It
exactly.
just ain't gonna sell as much as we were thinking it would at a different price point.
Exactly.
So
And this is a little morbid. I just miss Steve Jobs, man. I just miss him.
yeah,
I miss him being at these keynotes. I honestly do. I'm like, he was just he was you know the of course the old saying you don't know what you got till it's gone, but like
hmm
he was a star up there. He was
yeah.
natural, and not that these guys were bad or anything like that. They're just not Steve Jobs, man. And I don't even never bought a Mac computer in my life, but I just liked him and miss him being up there, telling me how easy something is.
I know he's gotten a bit more idle fanfare than probably any human deserves, but you know,
Yeah.
it's like there was an Apple era of Steve Jobs, and now we're in the post Steve Jobs era. You know, it's just how
Yeah.
it is.
Okay, before we get out of here, I gotta bring this up. I know this is a long show, but I think we've had some great stuff going on, and I didn't want to. I could talk for another hour. Um, does the name Isaiah Triforce Johnson ring a bell?
Nope.
Isaiah Triforce Johnson. He he's
Well, I
in.
mean, I know what the Triforce. Okay, Triforce rings a bell.
Yeah, of course you do. You're a Zelda fan.
Yeah.
That's his name. Anyway, he's in line for a Wii U already. He he has lined up 27 days in advance. As you know, it's not coming out till November 18th. So a couple of days ago, he tweeted, "Hey, I'm gonna get in line." That's me paraphrasing. And he was the first guy in North America to get a Wii, and he was the first guy in America to get the 3DS. And so he's kind of made himself famous or gotten a little fame off being that guy. But I thought, man, how crazy that this guy is already in line a month in advance almost to get this Wii U.
Yeah, he's kind of in the same vein as those guys that line up a month in advance to watch Star Wars or something like that.
Yeah, but that's different. Star Wars can't like sell out for a year.
Yeah,
If you missed it on Friday, you could probably go see it Monday at lunchtime and nobody will be there.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, you know, he really wants one, and seems like he's got the time to play one. So
So he's sitting outside of Nintendo World, the Nintendo World store in New York City. And the president, what's his name?
Barack Obama.
No, the president of Nintendo. The president of Nintendo, he has gotten his Wii and his 3DS from the president of Nintendo himself because I guess he goes and is there
Reggie
on launch day.
Fils-Aimé.
Yeah, Reggie. There you go, Reggie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reggie's
So,
funny.
yeah,
He
I
reminds
like
me of
Reggie.
Sammy Sosa.
Yeah, I'm like, if he kisses his finger and puts it over his heart, then I'm crack up.
Yeah.
So anyway, I thought that was really cool that he's got pictures up on his Facebook and Twitter of being with Reggie and getting his Wii and his 3DS. And I just thought that was crazy. I was like, somebody is in line already for the Wii U. I love that. Like, part of me loves it and part of me obviously thinks it's a little weird, but more power to you, Isaiah. I'm not mad at you, Mr. Triforce Johnson, for working that on out.
I'm not mad at you. Do what you like.
And I think he like owns an arcade or something like this, or like, so I don't know if he's like had to quit his job or anything like that. I think he's
Okay.
gonna be all right. But you know what's funny about him picking up his 3DS and his Wii? In the picture, he's got a Power Glove on. So he's been Nintendo die hard for a long time. So
That's pretty nuts.
and so he was tweeting. I looked at his tweets today, and he was talking about just sitting outside and being glad that the 3DS battery life was so long, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're waiting so long. He was like, yeah, but the thing y'all don't know is they got a freaking Wii U on the inside, and I get to go in there every day and play it. I'm like, man, that's a kid in a candy store right there. That sounds good.
That's nuts, man. I thought you were going to say something about he was tweeting like, this Power Glove doesn't work for crap, LOL. Or something like that.
No, but it didn't. I had the Power Glove.
Oh, no, I know it didn't work.
Oh, that thing was
That's
awful.
the funny part. It's just decoration.
Exactly. It was great decoration. Oh, shoot. Timothy Hall, we should get up out of here, man.
Yep.
Big thanks again to Bradley C for being on the show. Timothy Hall, I'm Gabe Patillo. We're married to the games. Isaiah Triforce Johnson is definitely married to the games. Check us out on Twitter, Facebook. We're facebook.com/married to the games, Twitter at MTTGcast. So come follow us. You can check us out on iTunes, Stitcher. Keep subscribing, keep listening. Hit us up, mailbag@marriedtothegames.com. And keep on gaming. We about this. Peace.